My congratulations to you and to Chair Bozeman for leading this committee. I love serving on this committee. I love the bipartisan spirit that we have, and I even love Senator Hoeven, who always forgets that I care about sugar in Minnesota.
She even loves you, Senator Hoeven.
Yes. So welcome to you and your family. I can see how proud your family is of you, and I appreciated very much our conversation in my office. And I also appreciate your Minnesota roots and connection in Clear Lake, Minnesota. So thanks for that. So we have lots to talk about, and I'm going to get right to it. I wanted to start out by just raising the issue of ethanol and sugar, and I'm so glad that Senator Klobuchar and Senator Hoeven have touched on those two issues, both of which are vitally important to Minnesota agriculture. You know, ethanol is homegrown energy. It is a major economic driver in Minnesota, $7 billion to our economy. And similarly, the National Sugar Program supports more than 151,000 jobs in our country and contributes $23 billion a year to the U.S. economy. And it is run with zero cost to U.S. taxpayers. So I appreciate your commitment to work with us on those two important programs. Let's turn to rural development. You know, you come from a small town, and I represent a state filled with small towns and rural places that are full of energy and creativity and innovation and talent. And I think we also know that small towns and rural communities face unique challenges. And I sometimes think that people forget that the rural development side of the USDA is really important. That portfolio is very important. And I will be honest, I'm fearful that the work done there, those efforts not being well understood, could become the target for budget cutting. And I also know that American farmers and ranchers really trust the USDA on those issues. They don't want to see those programs farmed out to other agencies where we all are worried that they would just get less attention. We talked about this when you were in my office, and I appreciate that. So let's dive in on a couple of issues, two big rural development issues, housing and childcare. So we know we have a serious shortage of affordable housing in rural communities. These are places where our elders and folks that live on fixed incomes, people who make our food system work, it's where they live. For decades, the Rural Housing Service at the USDA has helped in those communities, and everyone agrees it needs to be modernized and updated. Last Congress, Senator Rounds and I introduced the Rural Housing Service Reform Act to do that. We have 14 bipartisan co-sponsors. So I want to ask you first, Ms. Rollins, can you talk a bit about your vision for how the USDA can engage on rural housing, and will you work with me on rural housing service reform as we're describing in our bill?
Thank you, Senator Smith. And I think of all of the portfolio, if confirmed, that I am taking on, the one that excites me the most is the opportunity to put forward a vision and build a program around revivifying, restoring, and bringing back rural America. And clearly, the federal government itself can't do that, right? There's going to be many, many factors, but the idea that we at USDA can lead that effort, that it's not just about elevating our farmers and ensuring our ranchers are protected and that USDA is doing everything they can to defend them. It is an all approach. It is housing, it is childcare, it is education, it is all of the above. And one of the things I think I bring to the table, and I think Senator Smith, you and I, and even Senator Klobuchar discussed this, in the last White House, I led the effort called the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council. I say I led it. We hired Scott Turner to lead it, who's now President Trump's housing nominee. And you all, if you haven't met him, will love meeting him, former NFL player and just a pastor and a visionary. But in that effort, we were really focused on urban communities and the disadvantaged communities within those urban communities. And over the course of many months, across the agencies, across the government under President Trump, we focused on the myriad of programs that were duplicative, that tried to serve the same constituency, that sometimes were fine, but other times was not a great use of dollars. So having an all-of-government approach like that, where we can really understand what role HHS plays, what role housing plays, and doing it quickly so we can begin to roll it out. A final thing I'll say, and I know, Senator, you've got one more question. America at 250, which America turns 250 next year, is going to be an incredible opportunity for us to take this message to every corner of rural America and to really get people focused on it.
So I appreciate that very much, and I think we do need to bring that message, but we also need to make sure that we are supporting and improving wherever we can those rural development programs at USDA and not throwing them under the bus, because I can tell you that they are counted on by folks in rural communities. So I hope that we'll be able to work together on that.
I look forward to
Ms.
it.
Rollins, I want to just touch in the time that I have left on the nutrition programs at USDA. You know, nutrition programs are foundational for healthy Americans. 2/3 of SNAP recipients are families with children. 1/3 are families with older adults or people with disabilities. SNAP is a rural development tool. In Minnesota, rural communities have the highest food insecurity in the whole state. And in this country, 9 out of 10 countries with the highest food insecurity rates are rural. So, Ms. Rollins, can you talk to me about how you see the rules around SNAP? And let's start with what you think about work requirements for SNAP.
Well, first, I understand this is an incredibly important issue to everyone on the committee. My commitment is to ensure that we have the data, the research, and the understanding of this program to make sure that we are serving those that need it. And as I mentioned earlier, raised by a single mom in a rural community with 2 little sisters, she worked at the library, she made $5 an hour. I understand this.
And is it your view that we need to adjust or change the work requirements for SNAP?
It probably will be no surprise to everyone on this committee, both Republican and Democrat, and through a course of 20 years of being a policy leader, that I do believe in work requirements. I do think they're important. I do think, and I don't fully understand, but plan to get more in the weeds on this if confirmed, and working with all of you to make sure that your concerns are part of that education process for me.
So my view, and in fact, I think this is the official view of the USDA, is that SNAP should ensure that no one fears going hungry in this country, but also that it reflects the importance of work and responsibility in this country. And that is why SNAP has extensive work requirements in place. And folks that are not required to work under SNAP, very small number, it's because they are taking care of a child or an incapacitated person, because they are all participating in an alcohol or drug treatment program, because they are already working under some other program. So I ask you to consider this as you look at this, because again, I don't think that this is a good place to be looking for extra dollars when we have so many people that are struggling with food insecurity, even though they are working 1 or maybe 2 or 3 jobs. Thank you. I know I'm out of time.
Thank you, Senator. I commit to working with you, and I look forward to it.